We go to chapter 17, motivation in theory and practice. So when we talk about motivation, basically we're talking about what makes people to want to work, what makes them happy, what gives them that reason to continue to work. That is motivation.
Yes.
So we go to the importance of motivation. Why is it important for a business, right? Why is it important for a business to find out what satisfies the need of its employees? It is argued that if an individual needs are not satisfied, then that worker will not be motivated to work. Businesses have found that even if employees are satisfied with pay and conditions at work, they complain that their employer does not do a good job in motivating them. This applies to all levels from the shop floor to the senior management. It appears in many companies that employers are not getting the full potential from their employees because they are not satisfying all of their employees' needs. So the point here is there's motivation. And when there's motivation, motivation will come as a result of satisfaction. So not only the pain, not the condition of work. Maybe you are not even caring about their welfare. Do you check on them? How do you check on them? How do you run your policies and your procedures? How are your procedures of organization? So these things are things that employees would look into. So if they're not happy with it, then they are demotivated. So motivation brings about how your employees will be satisfied at workplace, because it is only when they are satisfied at workplace that brings about motivation. I think it's clear. So that takes us to different theories of motivation, I think. So it is important for a business to motivate its employees. In the short term, a lack of motivation may lead to reduced effort and lack of commitment. If employees are watched closely, fear of wage cuts or redundancy may force them to maintain their efforts, even though they are not motivated. This is a negative motivation. That is in the short term. I'm going to explain it anyway. In the long term, a lack of motivation may result in high levels of absenteeism, industrial disputes, and falling productivity and profit for a business. So it is argued that well-motivated employees will be productive, which should lead to greater efficiency and profits. So in the short and the long run, in the short term and the long term, whatever the case, whatever decision is, employees have to be motivated. Yes. If they are not motivated in the short term, they would not be able to increase their motivation. They will not be committed. So they will be lackadaisical. They won't care about what happens with the organization. So this could be as a result of maybe some workers are made redundant. So whatever that needs to do with their welfare, you don't play with it, because if you do, it reduces their morale and then they become demotivated. That is in the short run. Then in the long run, if they are not still motivated, the level of absenteeism will increase. They would always be absent. They will find excuses to be absent. There will be industrial problems, strikes everywhere, conflicts within employees, within colleagues, because some are not happy. So in the short and the long term, it is important for organizations, employers, to make sure that their employers are satisfied. That is the point there. I think it's clear. Yes. So this takes us to different motivational theories. So we start with Taylor's theory of scientific management. Frederick W. Taylor set out a theory of scientific management in his book, The Principle of Scientific Management, in 1911. Many of the ideas of today's scientific management school come from the work of Taylor. The turn of the 20th century in the US was a time of rapid expansion compared to today. The organization of work in factory production was left much more in the hands of workers and their supervisors. Workers often brought their own tools and decisions about the speed of the machines were left to operators. There were few trainees. There were few training programs to teach workers their jobs, and skills were gained simply by watching more experienced colleagues. Decisions about selection, rest periods, and redundancies were frequently made by supervisors. Taylor suggested that such arrangements were disorganized and inefficient. On the one hand, management did not understand the production process and allowed wasteful work practices to continue. Workers, on the other hand, left to their own devices, would do as little as possible. So therein would also take place, working more slowly together so that the management do not realize workers' potential. We call it so therein. I will just do little I can do, but to you, you feel like I've reached my potential. On the other hand, I have not. But whenever you see me, you think I'm doing the best, which I am not doing. So that's what we call so therein. So workers would carry out tasks in ways that they were used to rather than the most efficient way. Taylor's scientific principles were designed to reduce the inefficiency of workers and managers. This was to be achieved by objective laws that management and workers could agree on, reducing conflict between them. Neither party could argue against a system of work that was based on science. Taylor believed these principles would create a partnership between manager and workers. based on an understanding of how jobs should be done and how workers are motivated. So before we go to Taylor's approach, the scientific management theory is talking about how to, to put how to manage the relationship between workers and managers. Before Taylor's ideology, workers are left to use their equipment, their devices, their tools themselves to carry on their job. Managers are just there to watch over on what they do. So managers do not have deep knowledge about what workers are doing. Workers know what they are doing, and they are not working to their best potential.
Yes.
Do you understand? So there's gap between them. There's conflict between them. Workers believe that they are not paid what they are supposed to get paid. Managers believe workers are not doing what they are supposed to do, but because they don't have knowledge about it, because workers are left without supervision to do whatever they want. So these things is what Taylor wants to stop. There's inefficiency, there's waste, there's conflict. So Taylor's ideology is about scientific, which means we have to use a workable practice to solve this problem between the managers and the workers. That brings about Taylor's approach. So we go to Taylor's approach. How did Taylor discover what the best way was to carry out a task? So there was a table for that, but we don't have to go to the table. So the point is this. Taylor's message for business is simple. Allow workers to work and managers to manage based on scientific principles of work study. So many firms today still attempt to use Taylor's principle. In the 90s, for example, some businesses introduced business process re-engineering, PPR. This is a management approach where organizations look at their business process from a clean slate perspective and determine how they can best construct these processes to improve how they conduct business. Taylor's approach is similar in that it advises businesses to find the best way of doing something to add value to the business. So the Taylor's approach is this. There's conflict between managers and workers. How can we solve this problem? To solve this problem, we have to allow workers to do their work and managers to do their managing based on ideas and knowledge that managers have on the workers. Without knowledge, then they can't be able to manage the workers.
Yes.
Do you understand? So that is about Taylor's approach. So what did Taylor say? He said, okay, here they said PK doesn't skilled workers. Now, these are part of his approach. He said, PK doesn't skilled workers, observe them at work and note down the elements and sequences adopted in their task. Time each element with a stopwatch. Eliminate any factors that appear to add nothing to the completion of the task. Choose the quickest method discovered and feed them in their sequence. Teach the workers this sequence. Do not allow any change from the set procedure. Include time for rest and result will be quickest and best method for the task. Because it is the best way all workers select to perform the task, must adopt it and meet the time allowed. Supervise workers to ensure that these methods are carried out during the working day. So managers must be able to understand how the workers are working. So that means they need to put an eye on workers and make notes on what they do. That is how managers will be able to manage. Without that, they won't be able to know what workers are doing. Do you understand? These are what managers have to do to be able to understand what workers are doing. Do you get the point? So as soon as managers are able to find out the best practice to use for the workers must use it. They must not deviate. Do you get it?
Yes.
So what are Taylor's, so at the end of it all, when you look at Taylor's ideology, it brings about letting people to work and get paid according to what they do. That is the point there. But let's look at the problems about Taylor's ideology. There are numbers of problems with Taylor's idea. The notion of the quickest and best way of all work for all workers does not take into account individual differences. There's no guarantee that the best way will suit everyone. So look at the first point here. When you look at the task, when you look at the list, which managers have to follow, the scientific approach, you want to use the same approach, the same method for all workers. You do put into consideration individualism. Each individuals have their strengths, their weakness. So you can't expect them to work the same way, to carry out the same function the same way. It is not possible. So Taylor's ideology is, there's a fault in Taylor's ideology here because it does not put into consideration individualism, individual differences. That's the first point. Do you get it?
Yeah.
The second point is that this approach is standardized. Yes. But can it work for everybody? It does not put into consideration. Do you get the point? Taylors also viewed people at work more as machines with financial needs than as human in social setting. There's no doubt that money is an important motivator. Taylor overlooked that people would also work for reasons other than money. So the last problem about Taylor's ideology is that when you look at this procedure, it means the workers that did all these things should get paid in this respect. You've forgotten that not everybody that works are working for money. Some think much more than money. So you have to put that into consideration, which Taylor did not put into consideration. So these are the problems about Taylor. Is it clear?
Yes.
So see, this takes us to, okay, now let me just read the last paragraph. A survey in American by Rob and Mayers in 2004, for example, found that of the top 10 factors motivating workers, the first 3 categories were a sense of achievement, having the achievement recognized, and positive working relationships. This suggests there may be needs that must be met at work, which Taylor ignored, but were recognized in Maslow's idea, which came later. So Taylor did not also put into consideration needs that brings about motivation. There's self-esteem need, there's sociological need, physiological need, there's needs for friendship, there's security need. So these needs are part of things that will motivate workers, not when the work practice, not only the work practices. Taylor did not talk about it, but Maslow talked about it. So these are all criticism about Taylor's ideology. I think they are clear. So we go to Mayors. For Mayor, they said Taylor's scientific management idea may initially have seemed appealing to business. Some tried to introduce these ideas in the 20s and 30s, which led to workers taking industrial action. Others found that financial incentives did not motivate workers. And still to today, however, what was becoming clear was that there were other factors that may affect workers' motivation. So the orphan studies, many of the ideas that are today known as human relations code grew out of experiments between 27 and 32 at the Orton plant of the Western Electric Company in Chicago, USA. Initially, these were based on scientific management, which is the same as Taylor's idea, which believed that workers' productivity was affected by work conditions, the skills of workers, and financial incentives. So, for the Orton studies, it is based on skills, working environment, and financial incentive that will motivate workers. So your skills, the work environment, how conducive the environment is, and the financial incentive are what Mayor is talking about. Do you get it?
Yes.
So they said on the 5-year period, changes were made in incentive schemes. Less period hours of work, lighting, eating, and the effect on workers. Productivity was measured. One example was a group of 6 women. This is a story. So at the end of it all, the Orton effect, it's talking about how people react, what brings about motivation. So people are motivated if they are able to find out that they are happy with their working system, they are happy with what they are paying them, they are happy with because they have the skills. So they are willing to use their skills. So that is the Orton effect. Then let's look at the conclusion here. They said the study concluded that changes in conditions and financial rewards had little or no effect on productivity. Increases in output were mainly due to the stronger teams and better communication that workers in groups developed as they interacted and were motivated to work together. Workers were also motivated in the interest shown in their work by the researchers. So these results confirmed further investigation in the bank. So at the end of it all, financial incentive, skills, working environment would not motivate workers in the long run. So the people around them, so they talked about the people around them, communication, better communication, teamwork. Better communication, teamwork are things that will motivate workers. Not only at the end of it all, when the financial incentive is there, when the working environment is fine, when we have the skills, we can't stop there. All these things are met. So what else will motivate workers? Then you have to start thinking about not individuals anymore, putting them within the group. So when you're able to put them in a group, they learn more not only their skills, not only their knowledge. That is the impact of autumn knowledge. So Mayor is saying, for you to get motivation from workers, it has to leave. You don't have to talk about these three things anymore. You have to start thinking about better communication, which will come about having them within a group. Because when they are in a group, they'll be able to learn more skills that they don't even have. So this will continue to motivate them. To get the point. Okay. So Elton Mayor now said, we reported that Autumn studies has led to what is known today as human relations school. A business aiming to maximize productivity must make sure that the personal satisfaction of workers are met for workers to be motivated. So management must also work and communicate with informal work groups, make sure their goals fit in with the goals of the business. One way to do this is to allow such groups to be part of decision making. Workers are likely to be more committed to tasks that they have had some say in. So going forward about Ultimayo, he said, putting them in the group is fine. It also motivates them, but it does not stop them. Also allow them to take decisions. So it continues. For Mayor, it doesn't stop in one aspect. It continues to find the reasons why workers will be motivated and satisfied. So if you are putting them in the group, it's fine. They can work within the group. They get satisfaction. But you should also not forget to also put them into decision making. Because when they are part of decision making, if I'm part of the decision that we took in the organization, I wouldn't want the organization to go down because I was there when they took the decision. I was part of it. So I will find a way to encourage others to do the same way as I am doing. Yeah. Do you understand? So workers will not want to let down what they are part of. Do you understand? So because they are part of the decision making, they are motivated, they are happy, they believe they should represent the company well. And because the company has placed them in that position to take decision, it means the company values them. So this makes them happy. So let's see what they said again. So I think that's the point about it. They make examples here. But the problem is about Mayor now. Go down. There are numbers of criticism about human, when you talk about human relations, it's talking about interaction between people. And when you talk about interaction, it's about communication, teamwork. That is what human relation is. So what are the problems about human relations? One, it assumes workers and management share the same goals. However, general agreement within workplace may not always exist. So the first problem about human relation theory is that workers, employees, and managers, employees and employers, they have different objectives. But human relation theory assumes that they have the same objective, which is not possible. Get the point here. Human relations theory says that workers becomes part of those that take decisions, right? So if this will happen, it means employees are seeing themselves in the shoe of the employers. Employers are seeing themselves in the shoe of the employees. But this is not possible because there are different objectives for employees and employers. So that's the point they're making there. Employees want to make more salary. They want to get more pay. Employers want to make more profit. Yeah. If one has to be achieved, the second will not be possible. If profit has to be increased, it might be as a result of reducing or not increasing worker salary. That is the point there. Yeah. It is assumed that communication between workers and management will break down barriers. It could be argued, however, that the knowledge of directors, salaries of redundancies may lead to even more barriers and dissatisfaction. The human relation theories talked about good communication system, right? So I know you are my boss. I know you earn more than I do. Yes. But you want to use my idea. You want me to come up with my idea. Now I know you cannot do this. So you need my idea to get this done. But at the end of it all, you get more pay than me. You have more position than me. You get more praise than me. I won't do it. But it is assumed that with better communication, managers and subordinates will work hand in hand. But the knowledge I have about what you get, the knowledge I have about how well we are living than I do, would bring about dissatisfaction. Yes. Do you get it? And the last one, it is biased towards management. Workers are tricked into being productive by managers. It will also be seen as a way of reducing trade union power. So he said it is biased towards management. Yeah. You put us together as you think, making us to think that we are one. but we are not because we don't get the same pay. So you are tricking us, using us to your own advantage. That is the point. Do you get it? So if this happens, it means because we are part of decision making, I wouldn't want to be part of trade union anymore. I'm part of decision making. So whatever happens in this company, I'm part of them. So do I need a trade union? That means I have a say here. So this practice reduces the power of trade union. So employers use this practice so that employees would not think about better opportunities for them through the trade union. So you become part of management, right? So what do you need trade union for? So you feel like you are seeing everything. You don't need trade union anymore. And when the membership of trade union is reduced, their power reduces. Do you get the point now? Trade union has strength through the members. So if the members are increasing, their power increases. But if the members are reducing, their power reduces. Is it clear? So that's about ultimatum. So go to Maslow's hierarchy now. Are you there? For Maslow, the first comprehensive attempt to classify needs was Abraham Maslow in his book of Motivation and Personality, published in 1954. Maslow's hierarchy of needs theory. So consisted of two parts. The first concerned classification of needs. The second concerned how these classes are related to each other. Maslow suggested that classes of needs could be placed into a hierarchy. The hierarchy is normally presented as a pyramid, with each level consisting of a certain class of needs. This is shown in figure 1. So we have physiological needs, which is about the basic needs. What brings motivation is I need to feed, I need to clothe, I need to shelter. As a result of this, I am motivated to work. I want to work because I need to feed. I want to work. I want to do better because I need to clothe. I need to shelter. That is physiological needs. Safety needs. I want to continue to work because the working environment is fine, it's conducive. I want to continue to do my best because I want to keep this job. I don't want to lose this job. That is safety need. Love and belonging. I'm working because I'm happy working because I have people around me that I'm working with. I can relate with them. Self-actualization. I want to be the best version of myself. I missed one. Esteem needs. I'm working because I'm being respected. I'm being honored. I'm being praised. So I want to be seen as someone reputable, respected. So this motivates me. And the last one, self-actualization. I want to be the best version of myself. So as a result, I have to put more effort into it. Clear? Then we go to the, I explained them already. So, okay. So now we go to the next paragraph now, right? So they say each level, right? Each level of need is dependent on the levels below. So the problem about, let me just explain the problem about Maslow's ideology. The problem about Maslow's ideology is that each level is dependent on another level. So if one is missing, you can't reach the next one. And if this one is missing, you have to start again. You don't get it again. Okay, let me just so I can understand. Okay. Each level of need is dependent on the levels below. Say an example has been motivated. Okay, say an employee has been motivated at work by the employee to take responsibility, but finds they may lose their job. The whole system collapses as the need to feed and provide for themselves and those who depend on them then again becomes the most important thing. Do you get it now or not? Mm-hmm. Each need depends on the one below it. So if I have passed physiological need, I am in security need. So if I'm in security need and I find out that I'm losing my job. So if I'm finding out that I'm losing my job, the next thing that comes to my mind is, how am I going to be able to feed? How am I going to be able to cook? So you go back to what? Physiological. Is it clear now? Yeah. Is it clear now? Yes. So if the next stage you have becomes if going to the next stage, if there's a problem in the next stage, you have to start thinking about the stage below it. Yes. Do you understand? Yes. There's also a problem in deciding when a level has actually been satisfied. That's the second problem. Do you get it? So how do you know that physiological need is done? How do you know that, oh, now I can feed, I can clothe, I can shelter, everything is fine? How do you know that you are satisfied with this? When you have a house, is this the best house you can have? You can see other houses better than yours. And better houses than yours is still part of physiological need.
Yeah.
Do you get it?
Yes, sir.
So the physiological need does not end. So how are you going to be satisfied? What makes you to think you have got the best? So your best is just when you see others, you see it as worst. So you cannot understand where you're satisfied.
Yes.
Do you get the point?
Yes.
Okay. So that's about Maslow hierarchy of needs. So we go to Ellsberg. For Ellsberg two-factor theory. So Frederick Ellsberg attempted to find out what motivated people at work. Since human relation theory has problem, Taylor's ideology has problem, Maslow also has problem now because we can't even understand when we are happy, when we are satisfied. Then Frederick Ellsberg tries to strike a balance between it, coming up with two-factors theory. So let's read. He has a group of professional engineers and accountants to describe incidents in their jobs, which gave them strong feelings of satisfaction or dissatisfaction. He then asks them to describe the cause of each one. The result is, what are those things that gives you satisfaction? What are those things that gets you angry or brings about dissatisfaction at workplace? So these are these two things that Ellsberg categorized as motivators and IG. Do you get it? So we start with motivators. Motivators are the factors that give workers job satisfaction, such as recognition for their effort. Increasing these motivators is needed to give job satisfaction. So this, it could be argued, will make workers more productive. The business that rewards its workforce for, say, achieving. So for motivators, these are things that has to be done for workers to be happy. Without it, workers will be demotivated.
Yes.
So let's see them. They said, one, sense of achievement, chance of promotion, chance of improvement, recognition of effort, responsibility, nature of the job itself. So I'm going to take it one at a time. One of the motivators is sense of achievement. So when I talk about sense of achievement, so you understand that as soon as you put effort at workplace,
Yes.
there's something there that you'll be able to get. There's something there you'll be able to gain for yourself. Do you get the point? So I'm putting effort. So if I'm putting effort into this, what is there for me to gain? What will be the result of me putting such effort? So offices, employers must find a way for workers to achieve certain things. Maybe training, maybe. Whatever you have to do that makes them, that they can point onto, that this is what we achieve, would motivate them. If there's nothing to point onto, then they might be demotivated. Do you get the first point? Chance of promotion. So workers are motivated when they know that their effort will lead to upliftment.
Yes.
Chance of improvement. Yeah, this one basically is about empowering them, train them, invest in them. So if you invest in them, they will be happy. It's a motivator. Recognition of efforts. Applaud.
Yeah.
Well done. Tell them they've done well. Responsibility. This will bring about job satisfaction too. Give them more. Maybe job enlargement. Let them do more. Delegate authority.
Yes.
The nature of the job itself. How is the job? Do they like the job or not? So these are things that will motivate them. They are motivators. I think that's clear. So go to hygiene factors. For hygiene factors, if these things, if they are not there, if they are not possible, if firms or employees are not finding them available, workers will be dissatisfied. Do you understand? So the first one is from the job itself and the employees. But the hygiene one is basically from the employers. So if employers do not find a way to meet these things, employees will not be happy. Do you get the point here? So for motivators, the employees and the job itself, that is what motivators are. But sometimes I'm like, I want to do more. because I love this job. It's the kind of job I love. I want to do more so that I can be promoted. So these still come from the employees. But the hygiene are things that makes the organization themselves. So if these things are not there, the organization is not going to work. The first one, pay. If workers are not paid fairly, they will be dissatisfied. Conditions at work. The working environment, is it conducive or not conducive? Company policy. The rules you make, the policies you make, what are the procedures? Are you fair with the procedures or not? That's the point there. Relationships with higher levels of the hierarchy, such as management. How are the managers treating their subordinates? Treatment at work. Do you see your employees as cost or assets? Inability to develop. Do you even invest in them or you don't?
Yeah.
Do you empower them or not? Feelings of inadequacy. Are they valued? Are they heard? Do they think that you give them the opportunity to understand that they are valuable for your organization? Are they able to explore? Do you give them the opportunity to do that or not?
Yes.
Do you understand? Do they feel secured with your organization or not? Is it clear? So if these things are not at workplace, there's no motivation for employees. Is it clear? Any question about that? So that's about, so let's check. Okay. So what are the criticism about Herzberg theory? Are you there? Surveys that have tried to reproduce Herzberg results are often failed. This may have been because different groups of workers have been examined and different techniques used. Also, there's a problem with, oh, okay, I missed something there. Oh, yes, thank you. Problems here. Herzberg theory does seem to have some merits. Improving pay or conditions, for example, may remove dissatisfaction at first. Often, however, these things become taken for granted. It is likely that better conditions will be asked for in the following years. Evidence of this can be seen in wage claims, which aim to be above the rate of inflation in some businesses every year. Job enrichment may also be expensive for many firms in addition. So it is likely that any benefits from job improvement will not be seen for a long time, and the business will not be able to continue with such a policy in periods of recession. So basically, what they're saying is this. For Herzberg theory, for Herzberg two factors, there are some things that firms, employers cannot keep up with for a long period of time because there's dynamic marketing.
Yeah.
The environment changes, things change over time. So if things change over time, how can you cannot make workers to be happy for a long period of time. Things will change. They make the example about wages, pay. So if you are giving them a fair pay now, what about if there's recession? How are you going to be able to cope with that? What about if there is recession? Oh, I talked about recession now, right? So if there's recession, there's economic decline. How are you going to be able to cope about that? What about if there's inflation? When there's inflation, workers want to get more pay so that they can still maintain their spending pattern. Are you going to be able to pay them for that? If you have to pay them more, are you sure that your goods or your services are inelastic? So how are you going to be able to strike balance between these things? So for factor theory, for some time it is possible, but in the long term, it might not be possible. Is it clear? So that's about theory of motivation. Any question about it? So the next class we talk about financial motivation, financial methods to improve staff performance. Yeah.